Hey everybody, this is my thoughts on MOBAs, the entire genre, not one game in particular, although what you are seeing in the background is Dota 2, it just happens to be the one that I have installed right now. That was actually sent to me by the Raz, so thank you for that, it is greatly appreciated. But if you don't know what a MOBA is, it stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena, and it's any of a number of games like Dota 2, of course, but also Heroes of Newerth, and the most popular one right now, League of Legends. They each follow a very similar gameplay style where each team has a base building of some description, and they play as hero units, or whatever they're called, and don't expect me to use the proper terminology for anything here, because, again, these change depending on whatever the game you're playing is, as well as who you talk to, actually. So, I'm using terms that are very general, and they're just what I observe, so don't hold me to any of these terms as being correct terms. Anyway, I don't really know the lingo. But suffice to say, they all play fairly similarly, and the idea is that you have to destroy the enemy's base. And you have to do this through a combination of using the minion characters that are controlled by the AI, as well as working as a team as your hero units in order to defeat the enemy. Now, even though these games all play fairly similarly, there's also a lot of differences between them. The game that you're seeing in the background, Dota 2, is actually one of the most complicated ones right now. So don't expect it to be the norm for everything else. And before I actually get into what I think about the genre in particular, I must also mention it's very, very popular in the competitive scene. Particularly League of Legends. It's just immense numbers of tournaments, tons of live streamers out there, lots of teams playing them, that sort of thing. And League of Legends in particular is just really popular as a game in general, partly because it's free to play, but anyway. What do I think about the genre as a whole? I hate it. Actually, that's kind of a strong word, but it really does fit in one particular aspect, and it's just something I hate about certain games in general. It's not just this genre. But I just really don't like MOBA games. It's not because of the gameplay, actually. It's not because of the games themselves. They're not low quality or anything. It's not the gameplay style. I don't really mind that so much. It's how they've done it. And while a lot of people like these particular ways of playing games, I really don't like one particular aspect of it. But there is one thing that even people who like the games in this genre can agree with me on, and that's that there's some weird problem with MOBA game communities. I don't know what it is, but it seems like these games just breed hatred among the various players. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of good players out there who are perfectly fine, but there's just also this massive number of people who seem to be extremely hostile online when they're playing MOBA games, and I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's just that the genre is so competitive, but you see people constantly screaming obscenities at each other when you're playing these things online. It's not even like you're playing Call of Duty or something like that. It's actually worse. So I don't know what's going on here, but MOBA game communities need to sort themselves out. Now, again, there are plenty of perfectly fine players, but there's also a very large number of people who just rage constantly online, and it's very annoying. But as far as the actual games go, what puts me off of them, it's a couple of factors. The first one being that the games don't teach you how to play them. Now, you may look at them and say, hey, they have a tutorial, they teach you how to play. They teach you how to control the characters, they teach you how to use certain gameplay mechanics like buying things, but what they don't do is actually teach you how to play the game. And Dota 2 is especially bad about this. When you go into the tutorial with that one, you're playing as the Dragon Knight, and so it doesn't really teach you anything other than how to play the Dragon Knight. But beyond teaching you the basic controls, how to buy things, how to use your abilities, that sort of thing, it also drills one particular thing into your head, and that is get the last hit in order to get money, so you can buy things for your character, so your character's better. It doesn't teach you anything about teamwork. Now, it does give you the impression that you're supposed to work together with the minion characters, but it doesn't really emphasize the fact that this is a very team-oriented genre, and you really have to work together with the various other hero units in order to actually win the game. And so when you're pushing individuality on a game like this, it becomes a really big problem when you get to online. Now, this is a problem that you have across the genre. It's not just with Dota 2 in particular, but when you get online after going through the tutorial, think you know what you're doing, you really don't know what you're doing, and you will get your ass handed to you. And on top of that, you will get lots of people raging at you for not knowing what you're supposed to do. So, what do you have to do in order to prevent this? Well, you have to spend ridiculous amounts of time reading up on stats, finding out each and every combination of items and abilities that goes with each and every single character. And on top of that, you have to look up strategies in order to actually be remotely competent at the game. I'm not even talking about being good at it. I mean competent. I mean average player. You have to spend a ludicrous amount of time in order to actually know what you're doing. This is a really big problem with this genre in particular. It happens in other games as well, but MOBAs especially are bad about this because there's so many combinations of items as well as characters and their abilities that you have to spend so much time looking at stat pages and tips for playing different characters that it really does take all the fun out of it. When I play a game, I don't sit there and think, you know what, I want to look up a strategy guide. The last thing I want to do is look up a strategy guide. I hate doing that. And when I have to do it to be even remotely competent at a game, that's a pretty big problem. It's particularly annoying when you have a community that sits there and is so hostile to you for not actually knowing what you're doing and being extremely good at the game. And even if you are extremely good at the game, a lot of these people will hate you anyway. It's just, I don't get it. But it's so stat heavy, there's so many combinations of these different things that it really just reduces the game to a math formula. And I don't play games to do math. I play games to play games. Because I enjoy playing video games. And I don't sit there and look at something and go, I need to do this, 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 and this, otherwise I will lose. That is the last thing I want when I'm playing a video game. To have to keep just a very specific set of things in mind in order to actually win. Now, it does happen occasionally with certain strategy games, but there's nuances to them that you can learn very easily through actually playing the game. With games like, say, Dota 2, the MOBAs in general, you really can't learn it through playing. Because the game doesn't do anything to teach you how to play itself. It's really weird. Now, other games are pretty intuitive on how they teach you how to play. They tell you what's specific to a certain thing. For instance, if you're playing something like Civilization, it will tell you what is your bonus for a given civilization, what's they're better at, basically. And you have to learn how to work to that strength. Whereas in a MOBA game, the game doesn't tell you anything right off the bat. It just assumes you know. And that's another problem that the whole genre seems to have. They assume you know how to play them. They assume that you've played them since Defense of the Ancients, the Warcraft 3 mod that pretty much started the genre. And that's just a horrible assumption to make. There's a lot of people out there who are just now getting into the genre. They've never even heard of Warcraft 3, and yet here they are sitting there playing MOBA games and getting their ass handed to them by people who've played them for a long period of time and actually know what they're doing. Or people who looked up strategy guides and actually know what they're doing. So, it's this really odd situation where min-maxing is required. Not recommended, required to play these games. To any competent degree. And that just reduces the game to essentially a math formula. And again, I hate it when games do that. It's the reason I despise playing StarCraft. It was essentially reduced to a very specific formula where if you don't do this, 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 and this, you will lose. It is that simple. And that happens a lot with MOBA games. In fact, it always happens with MOBAs. So, I don't know what it is about this genre in particular that necessitates such things. I mean, you might look at them and go, "Oh, you're a casual gamer." I don't really have the time to spend sitting there, wasting away in front of a computer screen, looking at strategy guides for one particular game. A lot of people are like that. So, there's all sorts of things that go into this. I don't really understand this genre completely. But it's just those particular things set me off of it. And I just cannot get into them. At all. I don't know what it is that prevents all of these games from being so accessible as to even reduce the min-maxing factor. But they don't even do that. Now, I occasionally see an attempt at making one more accessible, but it really doesn't work out all that well. You just end up with people min-maxing it anyway, and it reduces the game to a math formula yet again. So, for some people that's fine, and if you like that, whatever. That's your thing. But in my particular case, I can't stand it. Thanks for watching.